Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission really zeroes in on one single artifact, an artifact from World War II that some American historians called a prize almost beyond value.
We're talking about the Mitsubishi A6M Zero fighter, specifically serial number 4593.
Right. And we want to understand how this one crashed plane found on this tiny island in Alaska actually changed the course of the air war in the Pacific.
It's an amazing story, really.
Yeah.
It's like finding the enemy's playbook, because before this, the Zero was just terrifying, the terror of the Pacific skies.
Absolutely. You really need to get the context here. The Zero had this mystique. It was incredibly fast for its time, had phenomenal range, and could outturn pretty much anything the Allies had early on.
Oh yeah, the kill ratios tell the story. Over China, pilots were reporting ratios as high as 12-1 against Allied planes.
12-1. So pilots were understandably, well, terrified. They didn't know how it did what it did.
Exactly. It felt invincible. And the official American strategy, you won't believe this, it was basically run away.
Humiliating, right? Avoid dogfighting a Zero. Just get out of there.
Yeah.
That really sets the stage for why capturing one intact was so crucial.
It does. They needed answers. And the story starts, strangely enough, not some huge battle, but way up north. Alaska. Akutan Island, July 10th, 1942.
Okay, set the scene.
You've got machinist-mate Albert Knack. He's in a PBY Catalina patrol plane flying over this foggy, remote Aleutian island.
Nasty flying conditions up there, I bet.
Terrible. But then there's a break in the fog, and he sees it down below.
What did he see?
The unmistakable red circles. The Hinamaru. On the wings of a Japanese fighter plane.
A Zero.
The Zero. Serial number 4593. But it wasn't flying. It was upside down in a marsh, wheels sticking up in the air, and crucially, it looked intact.
Wow. Not just wreckage, the whole plane, preserved almost.
Like a museum piece delivered to their doorstep. But how it got there, that's its own tragedy. We need to jump back about a month, June 4th, 1942.
June 4th. Oh, wait, that's the same day as the Battle of Midway, isn't it?
Exactly the same day. This Zero was part of a smaller, diversionary Japanese strike against Dutch Harbor in the Aleutians, meant to draw attention away from Midway.
Okay, so who was flying it?
A young guy. Flight Petty Officer Tadayoshi Koga. Just 19 years old. He'd launched from the carrier Ruho.
And during the attack?
He was strafing ground targets, and his Zero took hits. Not from heavy anti-aircraft fire, more like small arms, rifle fire, maybe machine gun fire from the ground.
But it was enough?
It was enough. A bullet severed an oil line, not instantly catastrophic, not like an explosion, but it meant the engine was bleeding out, losing oil pressure fast.
Ah, so he knew he wouldn't make it back to the Rio.
Right. Engine seizure was inevitable, probably within minutes. So he turned towards Akutan Island. There was a prearranged emergency landing spot there.
A safe zone, supposedly.
Supposedly. A flat, grassy area near a lake. The Japanese even had plans, reportedly, for a submarine to be nearby to rescue downed pilots.
Sounds like a good plan, but...
But from the air, that grassy flat looked firm. Perfect. Koga had two wingmen flying with him, Makoto Endo and Sugo Shikarda. They were circling overhead.
And they saw something Koga didn't.
Yeah. They saw a glistening, a wetness. It wasn't solid ground. It was bog, marshland. They tried desperately to signal him, wave him off from lowering his gear, tell him to belly land it.
Too late.
Too late. Koga followed standard procedure for an emergency landing on what he thought was solid ground.
Oh.
He lowered his landing gear.
Oh, no.
The wheels dug into that soft mud instantly. The plane just pitched forward violently, flipped right over onto its back.
And Koga.
Killed instantly. Broken neck. But the plane itself, the airframe, remarkably undamaged by the flip, just stuck there upside down.
And his wingmen saw this happen.
They did.
Right.
And now they faced this horrible dilemma. Japanese military doctrine was absolutely clear. Destroy any downed aircraft, especially a Zero, to keep its secret safe.
They were supposed to shoot up their friend's plane.
Explicit orders. They should have strafed it right then and there. But they hesitated. They thought Koga might still be alive, maybe just injured or trapped. Seeing the plane flip, maybe they hoped. Plus, they were low on fuel themselves. The notorious Aleutian fog was rolling back in.
A split-second decision.
A gut-wrenching one. They decided to leave it. They flew back to the carrier, hoping Koga was okay, maybe waiting for that submarine rescue. They left the Zero untouched.
And it just sat there, in the marsh.
For a whole month, undisturbed. Until Knack spotted it from the Catalina on July 10th.
Incredible. That hesitation saved the plane for the Allies.
It really did.
Yeah.
So the day after Knack's discovery, July 11th, Lieutenant Thieves led a recovery party back to the site.
And they found Koga.
Yes. Chief Aviation Pilot William Scarborough actually waded into the muck. Koga's body was still strapped in the cockpit. Before they even touched the plane, they recovered his body.
What did they do?
They gave him a burial right there on Akutan Island. A Christian burial service, actually.
Aw.
A moment of respect for the enemy pilot before turning to the machine.
That's quite something, acknowledging the human cost first.
It is. Then they focused on the plane. And right away, even as they were figuring out how to move it, they noticed something striking.
The weight, you mentioned it was light.
Incredibly light. Even waterlogged from the marsh, they found that just 6 men could wrestle it onto a makeshift sledge they built. 6 men.
That must have immediately seemed wrong compared to American planes.
Completely counterintuitive. American planes were built tough, heavy. This was the first big aha moment. This thing was built differently.
Okay, so once they got it back, took it apart,
Hmm.
what was the big engineering paradox they uncovered? What made it so light?
It was stunning, really. It boiled down to what wasn't there. Things American designers considered absolutely essential.
Like armor.
Exactly. Point 1. Zero armor floating around the cockpit. None behind the pilot's head or seat, where attacks often come from.
Nothing, just aluminum.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Point 2. The windscreen. Just standard clear acrylic panels. Not the thick, heavy armored glass Allied pilots sat behind.
Okay, vulnerable pilot. What else?
The biggest one, arguably the most fatal flaw,
Hmm.
the fuel tanks.
How so?
They were just simple, thin-walled aluminum cans. That's it. Absolutely no self-sealing capability.
Wait, explain self-sealing. American planes had that.
Oh, yes. Standard equipment. Allied tanks were complex, multi-layered constructions with rubber compounds. If a bullet punctured the tank, the fuel would cause the rubber layers to swell up and seal the hole. It might leak a bit, but it wouldn't just ignite.
But the Zero's tanks.
A single incendiary bullet, even a small caliber one, hits that thin aluminum tank full of aviation fuel. Instant fire. A fireball. The plane essentially becomes a bomb.
My God, so American pilots were flying in armored bathtubs, relatively speaking, and Japanese pilots were flying in potential fireballs.
That's a good way to put it. The Japanese designers, led by Jiro Horikoshi, had made a conscious choice. Sacrifice all that weight, all that protection for performance.
How much weight are we talking?
Let's compare. The Zero, fully loaded, around 5,555 pounds. The American F4F Wildcat, its main opponent early on.
7,426 pounds.
Wow, that's nearly 2,000 pounds difference. Almost a ton. Almost a ton. And that weight saving came from things like using this special lightweight alloy, extra super duralumin, and leaving out all the heavy protective gear.
So connect that weight difference directly to why the Zero could dance around the Wildcat.
It's physics, really. Lighter plane, same or similar engine power means a better power-to-weight ratio, quicker acceleration, better climb rate. But the real magic was wing loading.
Wing loading.
Yeah, it's the aircraft's weight divided by its wing area. The Zero had a much lower wing loading, about 24 pounds per square foot, versus the Wildcat's 28 or so.
And lower wing loading means?
It means the wing can generate enough lift to fly at slower speeds without stalling. More importantly, it means the plane can sustain a tighter turn. The Zero could literally turn inside the Wildcat. In a turning fight, the Wildcat was toast.
Okay, so now they knew how it was built, the secrets of its construction, but that's not the same as knowing how to fight it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have the blueprints, but you need the user manual. How do you exploit its weaknesses in actual combat?
This is where the test flights come in.
Right. They shipped the rebuilt Zero, now often called the Akutan Zero or Koga's Zero, to Naval Air Station North Island in San Diego. Under armed guard, 247.
And who got to fly it?
Lieutenant Commander Eddie Sanders, top Navy test pilot. Starting September 20th, 1942, he began a series of 24 crucial test flights.
What was his first impression?
He said it was like switching from a pickup truck meaning the Wildcat to a sports car. Incredibly light on the controls, very responsive, sensitive.
But he wasn't just enjoying the ride, he was probing for weaknesses.
Precisely. Pushing the envelope. And he found them. The first big one involved high speed.
What happened at high speed?
Above about 200 knots, the Zero's controls got really heavy, especially the ailerons, the surfaces that control roll. They started to stiffen up, almost freeze, meaning its famous maneuverability vanished at higher speeds. Rolling the plane, especially rolling to the right for some reason, became slow and sluggish.
Okay, that's useful. If you're being chased, dive away fast, maybe try to force them into a right roll.
That was the first tactical takeaway. Big discovery. But the most critical one, the real lifesaver, came from a different test,
Which was?
the negative G test. Sanders put the Zero into a dive, then pushed the stick forward hard.
Creating that feeling where you lift out of your seat, right? Negative gravity. Why test that specifically?
Because of the Zero's engine. or, more specifically, its carburetor. It used an older, simpler design, a float-type carburetor.
Like in a lawnmower or you mentioned a toilet tank comparison earlier.
Exactly like that. It relies on gravity feeding fuel into a bowl where a float controls the level. Simple, light, works fine in normal flight, or even in positive G turns.
But under negative G.
When Sanders pushed the stick forward, the negative G's essentially lifted the fuel away from the carburetor's intake. The float mechanism got confused, fuel flow stopped,
And the engine.
coughed, sputtered,
Yeah.
and quit. Just went silent. Instantly turned the mighty Zero into a glider.
Wow. And American planes.
American fighters used more advanced pressure carburetors or fuel injection systems. They didn't care about gravity. They forced fuel into the engine regardless of the plane's attitude. They could handle negative G's just fine.
So that was it, the escape hatch.
That was the golden ticket. If Zero gets on your 6, don't try to outturn it, you'll lose. Instead, push the stick forward into a dive, initiate negative G,
Your engine keeps running.
and the Zero's engine cuts out behind you. Even if just for a few seconds, that's enough time to open up distance, escape, or reposition for an attack.
That's huge. How quickly did this information get out?
Almost immediately. The findings were compiled, reports written up, and distributed urgently to every Allied squadron in the Pacific.
And this directly led to new tactics.
It solidified tactics that some pilots, like the Flying Tigers in China, were already intuitively developing. But now it was based on hard data. The boom and zoom became doctrine.
Explain boom and zoom again.
Use your plane strengths. American planes were generally heavier, tougher, and faster in a dive, plus had better high-altitude performance. So climb above the Zeros, use your altitude advantage to dive down at high speed, the boom, make one quick firing pass, and then use your speed to climb back up, the zoom.
And the key rule.
Never, ever get slow and try to turn with a Zero. Use your speed, use the vertical, exploit that negative G weakness, don't play their game.
Did pilots actually say this helped?
Absolutely. We have quotes from pilots, famous aces like Marine Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Walsh, a Medal of Honor recipient, who explicitly credited the intel from Koga's Zero with saving their lives multiple times. It went from being an enigma to a known quantity almost overnight.
So the tactical impact was immediate. Did it influence aircraft design too?
It did, though perhaps more as confirmation than revolution. Grumman was already working on the Zero's successor nemesis, the F-6F Hellcat.
Which was a very different beast.
Totally different philosophy. The data from the Akutan Zero basically confirmed Grumman and the Navy were on the right track. The Hellcat was everything the Zero wasn't.
How so?
Heavy, robust, lots of armor around the pilot and vital systems. Self-sealing fuel tanks, of course. And powered by the massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, 2,000 horsepower.
Power and protection over lightweight agility.
Exactly. The Zero was designed for a short, sharp war, emphasizing offensive capability reach, firepower, maneuverability above all else. Pilot survival was secondary, Horikoshi had specific requirements, and armor just wasn't prioritized.
A gamble on a quick victory.
While the American approach, embodied by the Hellcat, was built for a long attritional war, it valued the pilot.
Yeah.
An experienced pilot who could survive being shot down, get rescued, and fly again was an invaluable asset.
That reflects the industrial capacity difference too, right?
Yeah.
America could afford to build tougher, more complex planes and train pilots longer.
Precisely. And this difference in philosophy played out tragically for Japan in the long run. The Zero's brilliance was also its fatal flaw in a protracted conflict.
Explain that attrition angle.
Simple, really. When an American Hellcat pilot got shot down, chances were better thanks to the armor and self-sealing tanks that he'd survive, bail out, get picked up by a submarine or flying boat. He'd bring his combat experience back.
But a Zero pilot.
A much higher chance of being killed outright by the hit or burning with the plane. Every Zero lost often meant an experienced pilot lost forever. Japan couldn't replace those trained pilots nearly as fast as the Allies could.
So by 1944, the Japanese Navy air groups were shadows of their former selves, filled with inexperienced replacements flying those still vulnerable Zeros against hordes of Hellcats and Corsairs flown by experienced surviving Allied pilots.
It was catastrophic attrition. The very design philosophy that gave the Zero its early edge guaranteed its obsolescence and contributed massively to Japan's defeat in the air war. Koga's death, ironically, exposed that fundamental weakness.
It's fascinating how one incident revealed so much. What actually happened to the Akutan Zero itself? Did it end up in a museum?
You'd think so, right, given its importance. But no, it met a rather undignified end.
How?
After all those crucial test flights, it was still being used, mostly for familiarization and maybe some tactical training. still at Naz North Island. Then, in February 1945,
Yeah.
got run over on the ground
Run over by what?
by an American plane. A Curtiss SV-C Helldiver dive bomber was taxiing and somehow just collided with the Park Zero. Damaged it too badly to be worth repairing.
You're kidding. After surviving a crash, the Marsh, intense testing, it gets taken out in a parking lot fender bender.
Basically, yeah. The legendary Akutan Zero, the prize beyond value, was unceremoniously scrapped. No glorious final flight, no museum display. Just hit by a taxiing bomber.
That's almost darkly comedic, a truly ignominious end for such a pivotal aircraft.
Maybe fitting, in a strange way. It served its purpose, it gave up its secrets. The intelligence gathered was its real legacy.
So, summing up the impact. Its capture demystified the enemy, gave Allied pilots life-saving tactics like the negative G-escape and boom and zoom.
Confirmed the design direction for the S6F Hellcat, which then went on to dominate the Zero.
And fundamentally shifted the balance of power by revealing that core philosophical difference. Performance at all costs versus survivability and sustainability.
That's the heart of it. The Zero represented a choice, prioritize immediate, brilliant performance by sacrificing protection, sacrificing the human element in the long run.
And that choice worked for a while. But it wasn't sustainable against an enemy geared for a long war.
Right. It highlights the danger of optimizing for one specific scenario, the short, decisive battle, without building in resilience for the unexpected, the protracted struggle.
So the final thought for you, the listener, builds on that. Koga's tragic end on Akutan wasn't just about a plane crash. It was a case study in that strategic choice.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Where in our own lives or work or systems might we be chasing peak performance, that extra edge of speed or efficiency?
By stripping away the armor, the redundancy, the safety nets, the long-term sustainability, the focus on people.
What essential protections might we be sacrificing for a short-term advantage? And what hidden catastrophic flaw, like that float carburetor or those thin fuel tanks, might we be inviting as a result?
The Zero was magnificent technology in 1941. But that very magnificence, built on a foundation that couldn't endure losses, made it almost obsolete just a few years later. A powerful lesson from a single plane in an Alaskan marsh.